Righty then, second game of pre-season. The Reds are now in Australia. Melbourne, to be specific. Melbourne Victory is the opposition. Melbourne finished second in their domestic league in the 21-22 campaign, and they've just signed Nani. I don't know if that was a pure coincidence or it was planned or whatever, but yeah, Nani has just found himself as a Melbourne player, literally like couple of days ago. So we'll be seeing Nani, I imagine. Whether he features or not, I don't know. I don't know what his fitness is like at the moment, but I'm sure they'll wheel him out at some point because of the connection between the two clubs. So let's have a look at how they play then. Pre-season obviously is an opportunity for us to do stuff. It was a great start against Liverpool. I thought that there was a lot of positives, and Ten Hag himself thinks there's a lot of things that can be improved upon, and I would definitely agree on that. I think there's a lot more that we can work on. I think there were some good performances, but there were some performances to be improved upon. Melbourne line up in a 4-2-3-1. That goes to a very, very dynamic 3-2-5. They push a lot of players forward into the final third, which might leave themselves open. Do they change that against United? It's pre-season, isn't it? So it's a friendly in terms of what they're all about. So maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's something that we're going to have to find out. Their willingness to maintain a back three when in possession is looking to sort of gain numerical superiority against the opposition's first line of pressure. So if you press with three, they might leave an extra one back to make sure that they've got an extra man. The way they do it isn't the same way that you would see the way Liverpool do it, or even the way Manchester City do it. The way they do it, they seem to let the left back push forward a little bit and the right back sort of tucks in and sort of makes out a back three with the other two defenders. So it's an interesting way of letting it roll, but this is what they do. In the A-League, they're used to playing against high-pressing teams, so it is a little bit of a staple about how they play and why they utilise it. Three at the back generally does outnumber everybody, especially if you're going to include the goalkeeper. If the goalkeeper's got a technical ability and you want to include him in your four, which you should do, you always should do. That was one of the things that I think Cruyff was one of the original proponents of, the playing out from the back. It's a very Dutch thing, and if he wasn't one of the proponents of it, it certainly was someone that was very into it. And the reason being is, in your half, you can't be outnumbered. You will always have 11 against, at most, 10. So if you're technical, you should be able to find somebody in space at all times. You're not going to see the opposition goalkeeper come and press you. And if he does, just shoot. So that's why you include the goalkeeper in that sort of thing when playing out with you. You have to have technical goalkeepers to be able to do that. Very, very Dutch trait in terms of it. So you might see a little bit more of Van der Sar, David De Gea being asked to do a lot more of that when he's in possession. The way Melbourne do it, it gives them a lot of overloads in the final third in wider areas. They have a very, very adventurous style of play. And they rock that back to a 4-4-2 out of possession. So they'll seek to minimise the spaces. 4-4-2 is known for rigidity and being narrow and compact. And when you do it, you think Atletico Madrid out of possession. It can be very, very difficult to break down. Your two forward players put pressure on the ball. You allow people to sort of knock it around a little bit on the halfway line. And you just stay narrow and compact, pick up men, pick up space. And just sit there where it is. It's difficult for opposition players to find space inside those lines, even though it's quite rigid and straight. It's a very easy transition for them from the 3-2-5 to the 4-4-2 while defending. It allows someone like Popovic to be able to continue to attack with numbers whilst remaining solid in defence. Predicted 11 for them then. We haven't included Nani in this because we have no idea what sort of feature he's going to play in there. But Acton in net, Jason Greer, Roderick, George, Timotheu, Noah Smith, Jay Barnett, Jake Brimmer, Lee Broxham, Joshua Brilliante, Nicholas D'Agostino, and Tommy Juric. That's what we're expecting the team is going to look like. Starman is Nicholas D'Agostino. He was the top scorer last season. He got 12 in 27, so hardly a vintage Ruud van Nistelrooy sort of regen coming off here. Presuming he goes for the best 11, that's what I would imagine he goes for. Presuming Ten Hag goes for the best 11, here's what I think he will go for. Now, before I get into that, I actually think, wouldn't be surprised if he flipped it. I wouldn't be surprised if he went with his second 11 to start the game and his first 11 to finish the game in a reverse of what we did the other day. One, just to maintain a little bit of unpredictability. But two, one of the ways that you get good as a team is practicing your moves. So you want to instill a few things. Confidence is massive in preseason. You want players to play well. You don't win anything in preseason, but you can develop things in preseason, and you can certainly lose a title in preseason. Not that I think we're going for a title charge, but you get what I'm saying. So one of the ways that you develop skill is there's a few different sort of components to it. You have your dry drilling, if you like. You have the sort of thing where you might do it in a little square. You might do it unopposed. You might do it walking pace. You might try to start picking the pace up. In training, you might be looking at 2v1 sort of situations. Very, very, very micro sort of drills. And then you might play it in 9-a-side and you might play it in 11-a-side, and you might be patterns of play that you're looking to try and do. You'll see a lot of teams will do opposed drills where they might play against a team of mannequins, except for the back four who might be live players. Now, you're playing 7 or 8 or 9 against 4, you're going to score. And that's the objective sometimes. You can train both sides of this. You can have the defense. So you can play, like we saw United do the other day, where they played 6 against 9, I think, something like that. Or 8. And what that does is you put the defense under pressure. But a defense needs to be under pressure to be able to learn. That's how a defense learns. And an attack learns by being under a little bit less pressure. Because you want to make it harder for the defense so they can see where it's very, very obvious that there's problems and you got to pick this guy up and you got to pick that guy up. Against an attack, if you want them to run patterns, you want to make them patterns very easy. For those who've done any sort of combat sports, if you do submission wrestling or grappling of any sort like that, if you go and roll with someone who's an elite grappler, a black belt, you can do some drilling with them. But when you do a little bit of live sparring, you're going to get crushed every single time. And that prevents you from learning. There's a little bit of a thing in grappling sports where you kind of need to go and bully someone. You kind of need to be able to relax and smash somebody. Like one of the new white belts that's just come through the door. Just go and have your fucking way with him. What is he? He's athletic, 6'3". Just go and fucking pretzel him up. Because you know what you're doing and they don't. You can relax and you can flow it and you can start to hit different sorts of attacks without the same sort of pressure that you're going to have if you went up against someone of an equal skill level. And for me, that's a little bit of what I like to see in pre-season. Now, I enter a cup called the Manchester Summer Cup. We've won 9-1 and 7-2 in that. And we haven't even had a goalkeeper. We've had one of the outfield players just going in net and still putting up those sorts of scorelines. We've pretty much conceded every shot we've had in that. And then we mix that in with very, very difficult games where we're several leagues below our opposition. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to practice your patterns of play. It allows you to really see what you're about. And that's why I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Ten Hag go with his best 11 second, a little bit of an easier run out, and let's see what they can do under a little bit less pressure. A team that's maybe not quite as fit, not quite as good. Now you can start to see the patterns and it instills confidence. It lets players know that they can do it. And obviously they're going to have to sharpen it up for when you come up against the top 5, top 6 in the Premier League. But it gives them the confidence that I know what to do here. I know in this situation, I've got this runner here. I can look over there. Like I've got switches a possibility. All of these sorts of things are on the table. And that's what I think I like in pre-season. It's about drilling things, getting it perfect on a training ground, and then go and putting it into action in a live sparring situation in a pre-season game, maybe where you're not going to be tested so much. I also know that they bring in like the under-18s, under-23s as opposition, where they're technically going to steamroll them. But what they're doing is they're working patterns of play and they're working. You put in almost perfect performances in those training games before you take them to the field on a Saturday afternoon or a Friday morning, as it would be in the case tomorrow. What do I want to see as a starting 11? It'll be David De Gea in net. It just will be. Back four, I would go with Dalot and Lindelof. If Harry Maguire's fit, fully expect him to come back into the team, even just from a keeping him placated sort of point of view. But I would like to see Lindelof and Varane continue as a little bit. Looks like Martinez is going to be over the line very soon, so it's interesting, and we will be doing some content looking at where he fits in. Is he a 6? Is he a centre-half? Is he a little bit of both? But Dalot and Malacia. I want to see how Malacia does when it's not Tellez that's alongside him at centre-half. I'd like to see him alongside a first-team, first-choice centre-half to see how he does in that sort of scenario. I think Jimmy Garner needs a run-out, and I'd play him alongside Fred in midfield with Bruno ahead of them and Sancho, Marshall, Rashford up front. I want to see a little bit more from Marcus in this game, but that's a pretty good 11, about as good as 11 I think United can get out at the moment. And it's an 11 that I expect to be energetic and get after it. I'd like to see more of Zidane in this. I think he's probably caught the eye of a couple of people in this. I undenied about Eric Bailly, but I still think he's going to get sold, so I'm not going to put too much stock in the performance that we saw from Eric Bailly against Liverpool. Elsewhere on the pitch, I also think Hannibal's going to get an opportunity. So I was debating even trying Zidane in the starting 11 alongside someone like Fred, actually. Because I think Hannibal's going to come in and play a very similar role to what Zidane does. And I think that it'd be nice to see what both of those lads could do. So that was what my thinking was for this. How do we beat them? It's simple. Play to your potential. They shouldn't be able to live with us. Don't be complacent. Treat it like an extension of training, but go in and be professional about it. They'll be over-eager to impress in front of a home crowd. They'll probably make mistakes in terms of underestimating the counter-attacking ability of this Manchester United side. They push forward, exploit them on the counter, be ruthless when you are on the counter because you will get opportunities against them. Let's get some momentum going. Love to see another clean sheet. Love to see the confidence stay as high as it was following the Liverpool game. And I think another 3 or 4-0 could be on the cards, provided that United take this serious. The one X factor that we've got that we don't know about, and we saw that it probably was a factor against Liverpool, is you don't know what the training and travel situation has done to the players. Sometimes the match is the second or even third session of the day sometimes in pre-season because they're trying to stress the body and they're trying to overwork the bodies. So sometimes those pre-season games, you can look a little bit flat at times in them because it might be your second or even third training session of the day. So it'd be very interesting to see just what sort of condition United are coming in. I do expect some sort of flatness at some point because I know that they're working their fitness extremely hard. So I do expect some sort of flatness, but hopefully it's not this one. Hopefully it's a little bit later down the line. Potentially when we play back-to-back days, when we go to Oslo and then Old Trafford, I imagine that's going to be a bit of a dip there maybe. But let's hope it's another exciting game where we see more goals, a clean sheet, and we keep this confidence building because that's something this club just hasn't had in a while and something that I think we very, very much need. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.